broadcasting to viewers in Liberia and across the globe. Hello and welcome to News Today on KMTV. My name is Anthony Kukue. Wherever you're watching us from, we say thanks for joining our news broadcast tonight. Let's take a look at stories making headlines. Monserrate County Senator Darius Dillon says he will not support the printing of new Liberian banknotes in the absence of convincing information surrounding the $16 billion Liberian dollars and the $25 million United States dollars. WASH Commission Chief Executive Officer Bobby Whitfield alarms over challenge of open defecation in Liberia. And Internews, through its media development program, ends one-day high-level inception meeting on trafficking in prison. Is challenging. That's the challenge of open defecation is alarming in Liberia. Speaking in an exclusive interview with KMTV News, Whitfield said though they are working to gradually address such terrible situation, the lack of decent WASH sector is costing the government over 17 million annual losses. The WASH boss, who puts the current percentage at 42%, amounting to over 1.2 million people affected by open defecation, also wants parents and residents in general to work with the commission to help clean their respective communities.
Look, the statistic is alarming. It's serious. It's a serious challenge.
Uncomfortable.
If we look at the size of our population and the size that is practicing open defecation, it's alarming, quite frankly. Almost half of our population practicing open defecation. To be precise, about 42% of Liberians are practicing open defecation. And this is a huge concern for government, but it should also be a huge concern for every one of us in Liberia, every one of our citizens. You know, open defecation have got a serious, challenge on the development, the prospect, the growth of our nation. Open defecation will create, stunting in our young kids. They don't have the opportunity to grow up according to their age. Open defecation also causes serious challenge to our, population. Our young kids are dying, in huge number before the age of 5, before they can reach their fifth birthday. We've got a lot of death in our communities. A lot of our mothers and girls are challenged by the lack of, safe toilets within the country. So it's a serious thing, and as such, the government is doing something towards about it. And we are not doing it alone, we are doing it with our partners. And open defecation, or the lack of decent WASH services, that's water and sanitation services across this country, cost our economy over $17 million annually. And that is a huge loss to the nation that is struggling, financially. So if we end open defecation, we would have solved a lot of the problems that is facing our nation. We would have solved issues that got to do with absenteeism in schools. A lot of our young boys and girls go to school and they don't have decent toilet facilities in those school, buildings. As such, they feel really embarrassed going there all of the time using the open.
Meanwhile, the WASH boss disclosed that the commission will need about 155 million United States dollars to help achieve the Sustainable Development Goal number 6, assuring that it can happen in Liberia once the funds are made available.
The WASH sector of Liberia, when it comes to funding, we really need to double of our effort. Liberia, or according to our sector investment plan, Liberia need no less than $155 million per annum over the next 10 years if we're going to achieve SDG 6, especially 6.1, 6.2. If we're going to achieve those things, Liberia need no less than 155 million. Over the last 5 or so years, what's been happening is there have been a serious shortfall in the funding to the sector. All of our NGOs and government funding to the sector combined has been just around, $44 million. So you see about $100+ million has not been coming into the sector. As such, progress has been very slow. Liberia still sits at 76% in terms of national water coverage. Less than 4% of our people are connected to the pipe-borne water. So these are challenges that His Excellency is serious about changing the story in the sector. And we want to be empowered to go out there and start to enforce the law, not only make the laws, but enforce the law. Our biggest, responsibility here is enforceability. As a commission, we must be able to make sure that when the central lab is open on Friday, we can direct our people, our water producers, to go there and get their water tested, because it is incumbent on this government to protect our citizens. If our citizens go out there and buy water to consume, you cannot use $150 to buy water, a bottle of water, and go to the hospital the next day and spend, $15,000 to buy medicine, because your stomach is upset by the poor quality of the water. So we want to make sure that we protect our consumers, but also protect our producers. So that's part of our functions. And those are things that we're going to be very serious on going forward into 2020.
Internews, through its media development program, has ended a one-day high-level inception meeting and training of trainers for partners on trafficking in person. The training focused on helping the government and partners in curbing trafficking in the country. Samuka Konen explained more to KMTV News about what led to the activity.
We have all these top officials of government here to have, a dialogue on how can we help Liberia to combat trafficking in person. And this is a serious matter because Liberia has been placed on the U.S. State Department Tier 2 watch list. That means we as a country have not been more sufficient to protect our citizens from being trafficked. And so there are a series of recommendations in the report that the government needs to do. So the LMD program is helping the government to succeed in rolling out those recommendations. So for our end, we've designed a couple of programs. We'll be training 40 press club journalists to report on trafficking in person. We will be training 10 journalists from outside Monrovia to also report on trafficking in person for the communities. And then we'll also be training additional 10 journalists who are working here in Monrovia. So these different training will enable journalists to effectively report on trafficking in person cases. We'll also be working with the NMTR program to do what we call community media forums. So there's going to be like 10 of them, targeting at least 1,000 persons. These forums will bring the government and community people to discuss how to combat trafficking in person.
Well, also speaking at the occasion was Labour Minister Moses Colley.
Today, as a mark of beginning of training of trainers on the fight against TRP, we want to assure the LMD Internews that the government of Liberia through the task force is prepared and willing to further strengthen the partnership as to achieve the 4 key thematic areas inclusive of prevention, protection, prosecution, and partnership. As you will be aware, we have retained the constructive engagement and international partners and local civil society organizations to provide internal and external cooperation in pursuit of joint objectives in the global fight against human trafficking. In order to fully accomplish the needed goals and results on the fight against trafficking in persons in Liberia, we presently have a second national action plan endorsed by the President of the Republic of Liberia on behalf of the Cabinet as an instrument for the next 5 years, which runs from 2019 to 2024. Now, under that, we also have in place a national referral mechanism which will now guide the implementation of the National Action Plan to combat trafficking in persons. As a way of showing some political will, the government of Liberia established an active human trafficking national task force as the principal vehicle for leading, directing, coordinating, monitoring all program activities against trafficking in persons in Liberia.
Montserrat County Senator Abraham Darius Dillon says he will not support the printing of new Liberian banknotes in the absence of convincing and reliable information surrounding past financial matters in the country. Senator Dillon said he will only vote yes if President Weah and his team provide a credible reason for printing new money. He wants an account of the 16 billion Liberian dollars and the US 25 million used for infusion to mop up excess liquidity. The Montserrat County lawmaker made a statement in a social media broadcast from the United States.
Let me repeat, for now, whether I'm in session with George Weah called or back to session, whether I'm not there, right now, my vote is an adamant no for the following reasons. One, we have a situation where $16 billion of our money is either missing or is not missing. Only the people in charge at Central Bank and the people in authority at the Ministry of Finance and the Economic Management Team headed by Mr. President Weah and the technical aspect of the Economic Management Team headed by the Minister of Finance can tell us where our money. Until somebody can tell me reasonably, logically, what happened to the $16 billion, I cannot vote yes to print new money. Because there is a very likelihood that if we don't know where the $16 billion is, we may not ever get to know where the $35 billion will go. I cannot vote yes. Compounded is the 25 million US dollars that was allegedly infused into the economy for the purpose of removing excess Liberian dollars from the market. Now, you cannot infuse $25 million to remove excess Liberian dollars from the market and claim to be that that process was successful. Then we can find the Liberian dollars that you claim to have removed from the market. Where is it? For God in heaven's sake, how can I vote yes to printing additional money or new money, replacing the money completely with new one?
Senator Dillon meanwhile challenged his colleagues not to hastily sanction the request of President Weah, as doing so, according to him, will increase the suffering of the Liberian people.
And it is a lesser argument for anybody to bring Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's name in here. Oh, Ellen printed the money. Yeah, Ellen cooked the food. She left it in the kitchen. She turned the kitchen over to George Weah. And she told him that food was in the kitchen. And it was in certain dishes. Where the food? What the dishes? Ellen print money. Ellen print money. Yes, Ellen printed money was wrong. It violated the Constitution. It is my view she should not even be walking scot-free. But George Weah didn't know what they did with the money, so they can't go for Ellen, who illegally printed money. Somebody illegally printed money and somebody came and illegally ate it. So the two walking together. You know, there's a portion in the Bible that says in Amos, the two cannot walk unless they agree. George Weah and Ellen, they're walking together because they agree. Before we went on break, some senators have already signed the resolution to give approval for printing money. I've never heard in my quote-unquote third grade life where government can print money because they won't pay civil servant salary. If we will print money for paying civil servant, they won't get roads in the country. So why don't we just print money to construct our roads? The way our health system is not vibrant, it's not resilient. Why don't we print money to upgrade our health system? Now let me come to my colleagues in the Senate. Woe unto any of you who will return to give George Weah the authority to print money without first demanding report, credible report. Woe unto you. Don't vote to increase the suffering of the people. If we don't take care, printing money now, recklessly, without any good thoughts, without putting structural adjustments and system into place, without changing some personnel at the central bank and at the finance ministry, without dissolving the technical economic management team to restructure it to resemble something or be something realistic and ready to do the job. When you vote yes to print money now, you are voting yes to increase the suffering of the people. They didn't elect you for you to increase the suffering. They already suffering.
To this development now, the executive director of an education foundation, Each One Teach One, is challenging Liberians to cultivate the attitude of teaching one another to drive to help the country. According to Madam Rose Sherman, Liberia will not go anywhere if the large portion of the society is illiterate. Madam Sherman was speaking in Cinco when a Liberian educator and journalist, Dr. Charles Bully, launched his 2 books.
Because that is my final mission for Liberia, that Liberia will become a literate country. Because without that, none of the development we're doing will hold. We cannot build a country on the back of illiterate people. And right now we have about roughly 50% of our adult population can read and write, and the other 50% cannot. And the idea of Each One Teach One is that if each literate Liberian reach over on the other side and pull one illiterate Liberian over to literacy, we can do it. And you know what? We can do it without money. Because we say we ain't got money, right? And you don't need money to teach one person how to read and write. Every one of you here who in the church, every church in Liberia should have a literacy class in the evening, run by that church, by the members of that church, teaching their own church members and the people right around the church in the neighborhood how to read and write. Our first goal is that 2020, everybody in Monrovia should know how to write and read. So I'm challenging all of you. Go and teach somebody how to write and read. You can learn to write and read even before you learn to read and write. We don't have a reading population. And you, the ministers, and the assistant ministers, and deputy ministers of government, I'm challenging you. In your ministry, you are employing people there who cannot read and write, and we have thousands and hundreds of high school graduates on the street without job, college graduates on the street without job, and you got people who can still use thumbprint and collecting government check. Y'all go do something about it. Yes. Go and do something about it. Get a 1-year moratorium. If you can't write your name, you can't read and write, then you order the door.
Well, with that development coming from the education sector, that's how we go home on this May week's edition of KMTV News Today. But before we go, here once again are stories that made the headlines. Monserrate County Senator Darius Dillon says he will not support the printing of new Liberian banknotes in the absence of convincing information surrounding the $16 billion Liberian dollars and the $25 million US. WASH Commission Chief Executive Officer Bobby Whitfield alarms over the challenge of open defecation in Liberia. And Internews 2's media development program ends a 1-day high-level inception meeting on trafficking in person. We say many thanks to you for always joining our news broadcast from across the globe. On behalf of the entire news team here, my name is Anthony Kukwe. For more news and information, you can visit our website at www.kmtvlibrary.com to get more news. Until then, my name is Anthony Kukwe. Good night.